being here. Just a quick word before we get started. I do most of my classes music free so that you can choose your own soundtrack, but for this one I have some specific recommendations. We're focusing on the root chakra, so it would be good to have something that's really soothing. Ideally something with a lot of bass presence, not too much treble, ethereal, airy stuff. And if you're going with something that has a beat, choose something with a consistent, steady, reliable beat, something you can really sink into. Aside from music, you'll want to set yourself up someplace where you have some empty wall space nearby. It would be good to have some blocks on hand and some yoga blankets. And of course, if you don't have those specific props, you can always use household blankets, folded towels, stacks of books, whatever's handy. All right, so we'll get started in a minute. I'll see you on the mat. Welcome, yogis. Let's get started in a comfortable seat, taking Pran Mudra with both hands and closing our eyes, turning inward as we deepen our breath. This flow will focus on the root chakra, right at the base of the spine. So at the bottom of each exhale, let's turn attention to that area of the body, noticing how it feels, where it's supported by the ground, or where it might be feeling unsteady. We'll observe without judgment, first accepting what is in the here and now, before we move to identify any points where we might desire transformation. We'll aim to create a deep sense of safety and trust on the mat today. So I want to invite you throughout the practice to keep your focus on deep, steady breathing and every point where your body is making contact with the mat. In some poses, that invitation might mean choosing a shallower or less intense version of the pose than you typically embody. It's all in the name of finding deeper, more solid connections to the ground. Imagine a deep red energy full of warmth and calm and nourishment, channeling into your body through the mat from a source deep underground. Let that energy fill you up. Let it feed you. Let it protect you. Let it give you strength. Let it hold you. We'll draw hands to heart center. Bow our heads slightly, centering our focus. Inhale to sweep arms up overhead. And draw prayer hands back to your heart to set your intention. Bow the head again to seal it. And we'll release hands to the mat, grounding the palms. We'll start to twist gently from side to side, drawing a big circle on the ground with our fingertips. Maybe envisioning this as a circle of protection or a sacred space. Sync this movement up with your breath, exhaling to twist, inhaling to return to your center. Again, let's stretch both arms overhead. And exhale to cactus the arms, opening the heart up wide. Inhale to reach high. And we'll exhale to twist to the right, anchoring the right hand behind the hip. Maybe looking over right shoulder. Inhale to reach high. And exhale to twist left, with both sits bones firmly rooted to the mat. inhale back to center. And we'll swivel the torso now to face the right knee. Exhaling, we'll fold over the right leg. No need to push yourself too hard here, especially if folding deeply means lifting your seat off the mat or compromising your breath. Sink into the fold. We'll inhale to sit up tall. And point the chest to the left knee now, and we'll fold over the left leg. Maybe grounding through palms once we find a comfortable, sustainable depth. Channel breath to the low back, and try to be patient with the opening. Let gravity and time do most of the work for you here. We'll rise up slowly and recenter the torso. Then reach arms overhead and we'll fold straight forward with a deep exhale. Hands can land wherever you need them to support you. Notice what emotions come up for you in this pose. Is there serenity, fear, anxiety, relief maybe? There's no need to fix or alter these feelings. Let's just try to be conscious of them as we move forward. Let's sit up tall, plant hands on the knees, and roll the shoulders onto the back. Bow the head and roll right ear to right shoulder. Come back through center and roll the head over to the left. Twice more, we'll exhale to center, inhale to the right. Exhale to release, inhale to roll left. One more time, exhale right, inhale center, exhale left. Lift the head and we'll inhale the shoulders up towards the ears, exhaling to roll them down and back. 2 more times, syncing movement with breath. Now we'll inhale to arch the spine, pouring the heart forward, and exhale to round the spine, leaning back. Take 2 more seated cats and cows here, taking care not to rush through your breath cycle. Now we'll start to draw circles with the torso, first leaning forward and to the right with an inhale, exhale through center, back, and left. We'll take 3 circles this way, then switch direction. Here's where we'll switch, inhaling forward and to the left, exhaling back and to the right. Come back to center, and we'll turn to face the top of the mat, extending both legs straight in front of us. Flex the feet and elongate the spine for Dandasana, staff pose. We'll inhale to reach the arms up high, and then hinge at the hips to fold forward, reaching for the toes. You can grab hold of the feet or loop a strap around them, and focus on keeping the low spine really long as you find your depth in this fold. Pressing belly onto the thighs, stretching the heart forward before lowering your head. Once you arrive at your depth, let yourself melt into it, resisting the urge to pull with the arms. Keep breathing deeply. Slowly, we'll start to roll back up to a seat, sliding hands up the legs for stability. Now plant palms about 10 inches behind the hips, fingers facing forward, and bend knees to plant the feet as well. We'll exhale to bend the elbows and lean back a little, then inhale the arms straight. Let's repeat that twice more, staying broad through the chest, maybe leaning a little further back each time, sort of like a trust fall. And if it feels safe, we'll squeeze the glutes to lift the hips up into reverse tabletop. You can keep the neck straight and gaze straight up, or release the neck and gaze behind you. Stay engaged through the hamstrings and calves here to protect the low back. Exhale to lower hips to the ground. Now we'll find our way to a standing position, landing in mountain pose at the top of the mat. Take a moment to ground through both feet, spreading toes, sourcing energy from below. Inhale to sweep arms overhead, and exhale, prayer hands to heart center. Again, inhale to grow long, maybe with a little back bend this time, and we'll exhale to fold forward, hands landing on the floor or blocks. Inhale to lift halfway, and exhale to fold again, a little deeper this time. Inhale all the way up, expanding. And exhale back to Tadasana. One more time, let's inhale the arms up. Exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold deeper. Root to rise up, drawing energy from the soles of the feet all the way to the fingertips. And exhale back to mountain pose. Again, reach the arms up. Exhale to fold. Inhale to lift halfway. And we'll stay here for a while, bending into the knees one at a time to open up the hamstrings. Switching legs at the pace of your breath. Use fingertips for support, and pour a little more weight into the toes to target the muscle fibers right below your seat. Again, letting gravity and time work their magic. There's no need to strain for this. We'll roll up to Tadasana, letting the upper body hang limp this time, rolling shoulders onto the back once you arrive. Now we'll turn to face the long edge of the mat, placing feet a little wider than hips distance. Toes out and heels in. Bending the knees will sink the hips low for goddess pose, reaching the arms high with an inhale. Then we'll exhale the arms wide like wings as we lean forward. Again, inhale the arms high. Exhale them wide open, folding at the waist. Twice more. Inhale the spine long. Exhale to fold, maybe a little deeper now. Releasing the head if it feels safe. Last time down. And we'll straighten the legs and relax the arms, drawing the heels out to go slightly pigeon-toed. We'll stretch the arms wide and hinge at hips to fold forward, pausing at the halfway point. Then stretch the arms forward, grounding through palms, in this wide-legged version of downward facing dog. Pour weight into the toes and get really long through the shoulders, relaxing the head and neck. Keep breathing, lifting through hips, and drawing the belly towards the thighs. Walk the hands back in and heel toe the feet back to about hips distance. We'll slowly roll up to a standing position. Take your time. And we'll come back to Tadasana at the top of the mat. And sweep arms back as we fold forward like a downhill skier. We'll bend the knees and sink hips back for chair pose, pouring weight into the heels. Reach the arms straight forward first, and then if it's available, engage the glutes to lift the upper body a little higher, trying not to arch the back too much. Release into a forward fold. Option to lift the toes and stand on top of the hands in Padahastasana. Drawing shoulders up and away from the ears, maybe pulling elbows wide if you've got some slack in the arms. It's also perfectly fine to stay in a regular forward fold here, using blocks under the hands if needed. Either way, let's try to relax into the pose, knowing that any discomfort we feel in the legs right now is only temporary. We'll lift up halfway, stabilizing with fingertips on the ground, and walk feet as wide as the mat, heels in and toes out. Bend knees and sink the hips really low for Malasana, Garland pose. With hands at your heart, use elbows to press against inner knees, lifting the chest and staying broad through the shoulders. Option to take that same Vinyasa movement from our goddess pose, inhaling the arms up overhead, exhaling them wide and low so fingers touch the ground near the toes. It's common to feel a little congested here, so feel free to maintain prayer hands at the heart and just sink into the hip opening. Now we'll plant hands in front of us and lift the hips high, folding first over wide legs, then heel toe feet back to touching. Fold again, and root to rise up to mountain pose. Get steady on your feet here, and we'll prepare for tree pose, shifting weight onto the left foot. We'll bend the right knee and point it wide. The right foot can touch down on the inner left leg at the ankle, the calf, the thigh, or groin. Let's just avoid stamping on the knee joint. Find a steady focal point for your gaze and squeeze through the right hamstring to stabilize your balance. Draw right knee forward, and we'll step the right foot to the back of the mat, grounding the heel and windmilling arms open to Warrior Two pose. Keep the left knee stacked over the left ankle, and try to tuck the tailbone, pushing the hips forward just a little. We'll straighten the left leg, expanding briefly in reverse triangle. Then reach down for left shin or ankle to find triangle pose. You can also plant your left hand on the floor or on a block. Grip the mat with the left toes to avoid hyperextending the knee, and spread wide through the arms, gazing up if it's comfortable. Lower the right hand to the mat, and we'll hop the right foot forward just a little, grounding through both feet as we fold over the left leg in pyramid pose. Hands can rest on blocks or on the mat. Pull the left hip back just a little to keep it square with the right. Let's ground firmly through both hands and get ready to step into three-legged dog from here, sweeping the left leg high behind us. Draw the left knee forward, and we'll send that foot off to the right, grounding the back heel to open up in fallen triangle pose. It's fine for the feet to be closer together here, just keep lifting the hips high. This will build strength and stability in all the muscles that connect to your tailbone. Lower the right hand to the mat and pop the right heel up, sinking hips low with the left leg still extended to the side. With your next inhale, step the left foot back beside the right, finding plank pose. We'll lower the knees, chest, and chin to the mat as we exhale. Then inhale to snake forward into Cobra Pose. Hold here, and we'll look briefly over each shoulder, gazing at the horizon behind us. Recenter. Look over the other shoulder, and melt the chest back down to the mat. Now tuck the toes and send hips high for downward facing dog. We'll walk forward slowly here, stepping just a few inches forward at a time, aiming to ground fully through both feet. It's perfectly fine if you need to bend the knees or come onto fingertips to make that happen. Just keep sending the hips back and maintain some length through the spine. Eventually we'll land in a forward fold. Lift halfway, exhale to fold deeply, and inhale to rise up for Tadasana. Shift weight onto the right foot and bend the left knee, letting the left foot land wherever it likes to be for tree pose. Let's hold a steady focal point or drishti for balance, and fire on the left glutes and hamstrings to help open up that hip. Now we'll point that left knee forward and step the left foot to the back of the mat, grounding the left heel and windmilling the arms open for Warrior Two. Gaze over right fingertips and imagine your stance being totally unshakable, solid as a statue. Straighten the right leg and reach back for reverse triangle. And then keep that length in the right side body as you reach forward to land in triangle pose, staying wide through the shoulders and hips. Squeeze the mat with both feet, almost like you want to draw them towards each other. And breathe deeply into the left side body. We'll lower the left hand to the mat and hop the back foot forward by 10 or 15 inches, folding over the right leg in pyramid pose. Ground through both feet and try to pull the right hip back a little. Hands can land on blocks or root into the mat. Let's grip the mat with both hands, spreading fingers wide, getting ready to step into three-legged dog. Sweep the right leg high, then draw the knee forward, pivoting to step that foot outside the left hand for fallen triangle. Again, it's perfectly fine to keep the legs closer together here. We just want to build some strength for these muscles around the groin that so often get overlooked, to foster a greater sense of security in our everyday lives. Lower left hand to the mat, let the right heel pop up, and we'll lower the hips for fallen warrior. This is a great alternative to pigeon pose, easier on the knees, and it gives you a little more control over the depth of the hip opening. Step the right foot back to plank pose, inhaling, and exhale to lower knees, chest, and chin to the ground, keeping the hips lifted. Inhale to snake forward into Cobra Pose, opening the heart. And glance over left shoulder with eyes on the horizon line. Then over the right shoulder. Face forward, tuck the toes, and we'll send the hips high for downward facing dog. Try to get your heels on the ground here, even if that means bending knees, stepping forward a little ways, or coming onto fingertips. Now we'll lower the knees to the ground and slowly make our way to a comfortable seat. We'll be hanging out here for a little while to practice some self-massage, so make sure your posture is a sustainable one. Feel free to bring in a blanket or pillow if it's helpful. When you're ready, you can start by slowing your breath and gently kneading some circles at your temples. Not too hard. Eyes can stay open or closed. Eventually, you might move the fingers down to the jawline, just underneath the ears. Next, we'll move to the nape of the neck and the base of the skull. Tuck your chin slightly to help draw some length in the back of the neck. You can let the fingertips wander past the hairline, massaging the scalp. And maybe tilt the head gently from side to side. Let your body guide you through this. And when you're ready, move fingers up toward the crown of the head, almost like you're lathering shampoo. Now we'll release into child's pose. No rush here, take your time. If you'd like to, you can walk your hands in closer and come to forearms, landing in a sort of hybrid between child's pose and sphinx pose. Whatever stance you choose, just keep sourcing energy through every point where your body makes contact with the ground. Now we'll We'll roll up to sit on our heels and move into hero pose. Knees would stay together, heels part, and the hips sink between the heels. If your seat doesn't reach the ground here, bring in a folded blanket or block between the heels. We want internal rotation at the hips here. The knees do not twist, so if anything feels dicey in the knees or ankles, ease up and get some more height under the seat. But if your seat reaches the ground comfortably, you might recline and rest on the forearms. Grip the soles of your feet so that you can easily pull yourself up if the pose becomes too intense. Let's find an upright seat. Slowly release the legs. And lie down on our backs with knees bent and feet planted near the sits bones. Gently drape the knees left and right to release the low back. Recenter and root firm through the hands and feet, preparing for bridge pose. We'll push the hips high and aim to draw the shoulder blades together, maybe reaching for the ankles with the hands if that's accessible. Grip the mat with your toes and keep some active energy between the thighs. Slowly release, lowering the hips. We'll roll onto the left side and curl up in a fetal position. Stretch the arms straight ahead of you, and then peel the right arm open wide like you're opening a book. Aim to root both shoulder blades to the mat to create some stability in the twist. Gaze can follow the right hand if it's comfortable for you. Flip the palms over and root them to the ground. Then draw knees to center and exhale to let them fall over to the right, curling into a ball on your side. Stretch both arms long and open the left arm like a book cover, expanding through the heart and shoulders, nourishing the low back. Again, root through the palms for stability, recenter, and we'll hug the knees to outer ribs now, rocking from side to side. Maybe shimmying the hips up and down for the SI joint. Whatever feels good. Now let's sit up and move over to the wall, bringing in some blankets or whatever other props you need. We're going to scoot the hips right up to the wall and prop the legs up on it while we recline, almost like an inverted version of Dandasana pose. Relax your knees and let yourself sink into stillness here. This pose is great for backaches and lower body cramps, so you might consider adding a few minutes of this to your daily routine if these are things you struggle with. Option to keep the legs straight up or open them wide for a deep opening at the inner legs. No need to push or strain or hyperextend here. Just let gravity take over. Now let's bend the knees, draw the thighs to the belly, and press the soles of the feet firmly against the wall like an inverted squat pose. You should feel a deep release in the low back here. The harder you push with the feet, the more intensely you'll feel it at your tailbone and sacrum. We'll release and extend the legs straight up the wall again, relinquishing control of the breath, letting go. Option to stay here for as long as you like, maybe remaining in this position throughout Shavasana if that feels sustainable. I'm going to move away from the wall and set up for Shavasana by placing a folded blanket under my head and a rolled blanket under my knees. You could also use a bolster or pillow for this, or even a foam roller. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Keeping a bend in the knees for Shavasana can help you to root your sacrum to the mat, which feels a lot safer for some people than lying flat on the back. And we all really need to feel safe in order to release. Now, wherever you are, let's close our eyes, relax the jawbones, find some stillness. Melt into the mat and trust the earth to hold you steady. Trust in the sky to watch over you and all that you love, keeping you safe. Lay your palms open. Inhale and receive. Exhale and let go. Let every breath be like wind, shaping mountains and valleys inside you, sowing seeds, sometimes carrying storms that always pass, stirring waves that crash onto shores and pulling them back to the deep. The cycle is endless and infinite. Let go, receive, let go. When you're ready, we'll start to generate small movements in fingers and toes. You might stretch long with the arms overhead, reawakening. Roll gently onto one side and find your way to an easy seat. To finish, you might place your hands in your favorite mudra for meditation, or draw hands to your heart. Let's bow our heads in gratitude for all that we receive from the earth. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, yogi. I hope you'll join me on the mat again soon. Be good to yourself.